Today we're reviewing the Jones long wheelbase. Oh boy, oh boy. Here we are aboard the Jones long wheelbase. Today I'm going to try and put into words what it feels like to ride this bike because it's unlike anything else. I've got a whole another video talking about my expectations of this bike and how they were wrong. You want to go watch that before you watch this any further. It's super crucial. Most of us see this and we think, oh, that's a cool gravel bike, or what a cool town bike, or what a cool bike for old people that aren't serious about riding. Just because it doesn't look normal, there's no big suspension fork, it's got these weird bars, got massive tires, you just think that thing can't possibly be ridden on modern terrain. Today we're here to find the limits of this bike and find where it excels and where it doesn't. The Jones philosophy is this is kind of one bike to do it all, and usually bikes like that are a jack of all trade, master of none. But I have a feeling this has a few tricks up its sleeve. The very first thing you'll notice riding a Jones is the riding position. These bars are so comfortable. The ride is upright. I'm not reaching forward. I'm not hunched over. I'm just like sitting on a bar stool, practically with my hands in my pocket, and that's where the handlebars put me. Okay, I'm gonna stand up here. I love these big tires. They are part of the Jones magic to me. This bike is so deceptive. You don't realize how quick you're going until you're riding with other people and they're like, what is going on? Because when you're riding it, it just feels like a really calm affair. Like you're in this super neutral, relaxed riding position. The tires are eating up all the small bumps and the bike's just easy to handle. And so you don't put a whole lot of body English into it and the bike does a lot of the work. That means you're not overriding the bike. And it's such a weird phenomenon. I've loaned this out to a few of my buddies and they've said the same thing. They said when I'm riding it, I feel like I'm going 5 miles an hour slower than my average bikes. But when I look at the results, I'm setting PRs. Other people look at this on paper and see 34 pounds and think, oh, that must be a tank. Sure doesn't feel like a tank when I ride it. It's slow to accelerate because the tires are bigger and a little bit heavy for people who are used to fast rolling 29ers. Oh, right there, I'm feeling the slacker seat tube. Like accelerating up a switchback, I'm struggling just a little with the body position where I am. I've actually developed a fair bit of knee pain riding this bike longer as well. I've ridden a fair amount of rigid bikes, fat bikes, my own signature bikes, but there's something magical about the Jones. They flex and track so much better than most other rigid bikes. Yes, I know the cockpit looks weird. It feels weird too at first, and then it feels so right. Here we are on a flow trail. See how she does on mellow jumps and float over that tabletop there. So much fun. Now this wouldn't be my first choice for flow, but man, it's doing it. Man, this riding position is so comfortable. It's so funny when you ride these bars, then you hop to another bike. Any other bike feels so wrong. It feels like your bars have forward sweep. And while my first ride on this bike was very fun, after 3 or 4 rides, I really started to unlock what it could do. And to do that, I had to completely change my riding style. This bike wants you to hang off the back of the bike, kind of in an old school riding technique. That's the complete opposite of how I've taught myself to ride lately on the new bikes. And a lot of that has to do with the geometry. These bikes have a very long rear end and a very short front end. I don't quite get toe overlap on this bike, but I do on the short wheelbase. And that front end is quite tucked in, but because of the rake of the fork, the wheel still feels out there and I don't feel like I'm about to go over the bars. Let's talk about what makes this bike so unique. First off is the ride position. These swept back bars are a huge part of the Jones experience. They're so revolutionary that a lot of people end up buying just the bars and putting them on their bike to mimic that feel. That's a huge part of it. Another part, you'll notice the super tall stack. My bars are taller than my seat at full extension. That's pretty rare. Most people are more hunched over in an attack position. This is a more upright, comfortable position. Another huge aspect of the way this bike rides are these tires. These Durocrux 29 by 3.25 are massive. They measure over 30.5 inches tall, so they roll over things a lot better. And that 3.25 wide on a really wide Jones C rim, these are their carbon wheels, allows me to drop down to 10, 9, even 8.5 PSI to get a buttery smooth ride without burping and without slamming ROPs and pinch flatting. Today I'm running 10 PSI front and rear. Another thing you'll notice is the rigid fork with a lot of rake to push the front wheel out there. The idea is to prevent it from feeling like it wants to endo and go over the front. I'm also running a PNW 125 mil dropper on here because this seat tube is a 27.2, which is smaller than most, and it's harder to find longer droppers. So this is the longest dropper I can get. And because this is external routing only, I have to run an externally routed dropper. I can't run one where the cable goes inside. And I'm running an SQLab 612 saddle. A lot of people see this bike and think it's just a bike packing rig, and I want to show that this bike absolutely can be taken as a serious mountain bike despite having a rigid fork and these swept-back bars in different geo. I'm having a blast here. I'm not riding it as fast or quite as playful or stylish as I could on something like my signature Stanton Sedona, but it's totally bringing a grin to my face. All right, now we're about to do a trail called Oscar's Loop. It's pretty bumpy for a rigid, and so this is gonna kind of show how the bike does at faster speeds. And there's a few man-made rock gardens where they just piled a bunch of rocks in there. It'll kind of show the limits of this bike. And that's what we're here for, is kind of find out what it can do and can't do very well. Here's a spoiler. This bike can do so much more than you think. A little bit of rocks. Oh boy. Oh, this is fun. You can sort of manual on this thing. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, I'm not gonna hit that jump. I'm a little timid right now on this. Woo! Oh man. I gotta remember to stay on the back of this. Like, it's not tracking like a full suspension or even a suspended hardtail, but I'm not ping-ponging all over the place. I have a surprising amount of control. So in that stuff, I could feel a little bit of chatter in the fork, and that's not surprising for a Unicrown like this. If you don't like that chatter, you can go with a truss fork from Jones. I've never ridden one, but I hear they're stiffer against that kind of stuff. I'm curious if I'd prefer a stiff fork or something that moves a little like this. But I feel like this bike is just so well tuned with how smooth it reacts to stuff. It's not just the big tires, it's the soft steel frame is giving, and you can totally feel the flex that it has and the compliance that it has. Now, one of my complaints about this is the small seat tube, and I would really love to see a 31.6 seat tube on here, which is bigger. It's standard. I have a whole bunch of droppers that would fit it, but I only have 1 or 2 droppers that'll fit this, and they're internally routed so they don't fit in this anyway. And so I would like a bigger seat tube, and I know some of you are thinking, but won't that make the frame stiffer? Perhaps. There's different theories about that. Jones thinks so, and that's why he's stuck with a 27.2. A lot of frame builders I know say there's no perceptible difference. Without a dropper, a 27.2 rigid post does seem to flex a little bit more. And this bike with a rigid post is more soft and less harsh than most. So if you don't use a dropper, you're gonna love this 27.2 that it's got. That said, this thing gets rowdy enough, I want a dropper on it. The frame, fork, and tires all work so well together to smooth out the trail way more than any rigid bike should. I can't overstate how comfortable this bike is to pedal on. It's just upright, and it kind of takes you out of race mode, which I like. And I think that's part of why I love these bikes so much, is they help me reconnect with the joy of riding and put away all the seriousness. And more than any other bike I've ridden, these Jones bikes do that for me. In a lot of ways, this is like the Bob Ross of bikes that just wants you to be happy and soak stuff in and enjoy yourself. But unlike Bob Ross, it also likes to get a little bit crazy. So let's go head over to some technical stuff, see how it does up and down some technical rocky stuff. All right, here we go, Copperhead Road. This is a Black Diamond rocky trail. So it's a little bouncy and it's a little bit rough, but not as rough as it should be. And these big old 3.25s just float over this loose rock so well. These tires are pretty surfy on this stuff. Oh, this is fun. A lot of the noise you hear, I got stuff in my bag. That's so fun. Why is this bike so much fun? This is stupid. This should be the wrong bike for here, right? But I have so much fun on it. So you kind of have to go a little slower and pick your line and pick your way. That's part of the fun, I think. I'm not just like mindlessly plowing through this. I actually like the technicality of that, where you kind of have to think about what you're doing. I love technical climbs. If you're new to this channel, go back and watch some of my fun climbing videos. I'm not always the best at them, but I really love that. That's what I live for. My technique really has to change on this. I have to stay back. On a modern bike, I get over the front a lot on stand-up trialsy climbs, but I have to fight my urge to do that on this. This bike really wants you in the back seat. It really wants you hanging off the back. It's a little hard to do pedal wheelies on this. Like, it can be done. Ooh, there's a tricky climb. How about that bonus right there? I don't know what this obstacle's called, but we should call it something. This is about the height of my ribs right here. It's got a janky, rocky entrance, but then it's got this nice big grippy slab. Then it kind of narrows down, and then it's got some stair steps after it. This is a tricky move. A few pedal strikes there. Look at those scratches. Probably 10-inch stair lifts all the way up this. This will be interesting to see how the Jones does on this. Oh yeah, first try, baby. Wow. Well done, Jones. Well done. So we need to remember that the goal of riding is not always to go faster and faster and faster and faster. Sure, if you're racing, but faster is not always more fun. And I think that's what the joy of this bike is. If I were racing or I wanted the perfect bike for coming through here as fast as I could, I'd pick something else. But I wouldn't be having more fun. This should not be fun. This should be bone jarring. I'm actually nursing a broken finger right now, but the vibrations aren't making it to my body. Like other bikes, even my full suspensions, my fingers hurt more than they do now. A lot of that's these beautiful big tires, the smooth frame, just the whole combination. Now, where this bike would be a ton of fun is if everyone in your crew is on Jones. You guys are gonna have so much fun because everyone's gonna be laughing and sessioning the same stuff and going the same speeds. I have less forward and backwards range of motion than I do on more modern bikes. So I have to stay in the center. So one place this bike, and especially the short wheelbase, is really good is at very slow speed changes in directions. And the short wheelbase is even better at that. We'll talk about that in another video. All right, here we go. Where's my line? Yeah, that's really interesting. I can still kind of hop up stuff as needed, but because of the way you have to ride these kind of off the back, the front wheel gets a little loose sometimes. And I feel that on descents as well. And yes, you can overcome that with some technique, but on really big, techie rock rolls, I think I would rather be on a modern bike that's a little more stretched out, or maybe I'd rather size up. One place I really struggle with this bike is on very steep, sustained, like fire road climbs or like slick rock bike trail climbs where it's just real steep. I can get it up it, but it's very taxing because of the body position. And that's one place where I feel like this rearward shifted geometry doesn't quite suit me. I'm sure there are people who can make it work really well for them, but that's not my favorite place for this personally. Huge props to my buddy Dana for filming for me and helping me out. This is so much work. These bars do feel cool when you got a really fat diameter, so you get less hand fatigue there too. And I find myself not over gripping the bars. Really comfortable hand position. I totally see why people end up putting Jones bars on almost every bike they've got. They're super comfy, but I think the magic of this bike is more than just the bars. Okay, that's kind of weird. I gotta stay back, and it feels like on a normal bike you'd want to wheelie up that, but because the chain stays so far behind you, it doesn't wheelie, so you can actually stay in the back seat more than normal. I think the tires could be improved. I really like them, but the cornering knobs feel a little drifty to me. They don't quite hook up, and I find myself in a lot of kind of sweeper turns waiting for the cornering knobs to grab. I just feel like these cornering knobs don't offer the support and the side grip that I wish they had. I love everything else about the tire. I just like to redesign the cornering knobs. Here we go. Yeah, there it is. Whew. Kind of tipsy, but we got it. Yeah. This thing with the little bit steeper head angle has really great slow speed balance to kind of self-correct. And the way the fork rakes out, it doesn't feel twitchy and sketchy and nervous. What a great little bike. I love this thing. One thing I didn't mention enough in this review is just how incredible this spec is for the price. Jeff does insane amounts of research to find affordable parts that work just like things that cost 3 times as much. I wanted the mechanical brake option because I'm weird like that and I like mechanical brakes, and especially on a rigid bike, I just want simple, easy to fix things. And they're fantastic. I mean, the whole spec is fantastic. I would just add a dropper. These carbon rims are expensive, but I think it makes sense on a rigid like this to have a great wheel set. Pretty light. They're a little bit stiffer than the metal ones, but I feel like they're tougher and less likely to pinch flat. And when your tires are your suspension, I think that makes sense. But I think this is a fantastic bike for the price. I don't know of another way to get smiles this big for the price he offers these at. There's something about this bike, and Jeff has cracked the code of what makes a rigid bike special, and now the wheels are turning, and I just want to try more and more and more rigid bikes. I've filmed this review so many times, and I watch it back and I'm just so disappointed with myself because I didn't quite capture the specialness of this bike. It's a truly special bike. I'm a professional mountain bike reviewer. I've reviewed over 100 modern hardtails, and this is unlike anything else out there except its cousin, the short wheelbase, which is very much like it. And I'll be having a separate video of that soon, and then a comparison video of the two of those. But if you need bike advice and you want to pick my brain on the best bike for you, I offer that service over on Patreon. I'd be happy to help you over there. These tires have monster traction. I've not missed a climb yet today because I spun out. I missed it because I had bad balance, or I got bumped a little, or my power delivery was wrong, not because the tires let me down. And the tires are a huge part of what makes this bike so special. And if I could have my wish, we would have far, far more hardtails on this size tire because they're super fun. The Geo's very, very interesting. You have to completely change how you ride. But once you do and you get used to this, I hope I've proven this thing is insanely capable. When you want to get on a bike and reconnect with your childhood joy of what riding felt like and feel that again, the Jones does it better than anything else. You just get on it, you grab those wonderful sweatback bars with the massive oversized grips, and you just get this big grin that comes over your face. It's a master of simplicity with no suspension and no crazy moving parts. If I were ordering one thing I would get is a quick release seat collar if you're not gonna run a dropper, because I feel like it's worth putting up and down a lot. But I would get a dropper, and if I could change one thing about it, it'd be a bigger seat tube If I could change two things, it'd be a slightly steeper seat angle, but then it might lose some of its Jonesness. And so that might not be a good thing, but that's kind of where my brain is. But where this bike is a master of everything else is in the fun aspect, the smiles, the joy, the connection with nature. It's weird that metal tubes welded together in certain angles can change that way that you connect with nature, but you truly do on a Jones. As a reviewer, I always have about 20 bikes in rotation. 9 times out of 10, when I just want to go for a ride for fun, I'm grabbing the Jones. And if that doesn't tell you how great this is, I don't know what could. I'm not affiliated with Jones. This is not a sponsored video. They did not pay me. These are my straightforward, honest thoughts and my opinions after riding over 100 different modern hardtails. Here on Hardtail Party, we're seeking the fun, the party, the enjoyment, the social aspect, the joy of riding. And this bike captures it so, so well. So I don't want to pretend like this bike's perfect at everything and it's going to be better than other bikes at everything. But it is the most versatile bike I've ever ridden, and I see why people who buy a Jones and connect with that joy, they start to lose interest in the other bikes in their fleet and sell them off and become a one bike family, and the Jones does it all. I always wondered, why are they all buying them, being happier than ever, and selling their bikes that cost 3 times as much? It can't be that good, and it's rigid. It's gotta just beat you up. There's just something magical about it. The smooth ride feel, the simplicity, the way that it looks a little bit different, a little bit weird. There's just so much more magic going on than we can see from the outside. And I would beg you not to judge this book by its cover. Anyway, if you want to pick my brain more on this bike and learn more how it compares to other bikes, I do that over on Patreon in my bike consultation service. I'd love to help you over there. I have a goal to hit 100,000 subscribers this year, so if this benefited you, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned to know how the short wheelbase stacks up against it. You guys are awesome. Thanks for your joy and positivity. There's a party in the mountains and you're invited.